side-by-side bar graphs and stacked bar graphs. So what you're going to do is when you go into the app, you want to click on two categorical variables. And we're only going to use these type of graphs if we have two different variables that are made up of categories. So if you look at this graph here, we have alcohol consumption by year. So we have the alcohol consumption. This is categorical, so you can see the different categories are abstain, light, moderate, and heavy. And then the class year categories are year 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to compare the alcohol consumption for each year. So you can see in these we have the percents. So the percent of year ones who abstain from alcohol would be 17%. And you can see it decreases a bit as we get into senior year. If you wanted to make these stacked, what you would do is you would click on the stacked bar chart, and that would give you the comparison within each of these would be stacked. So if you wanted to use your own data, what you would do is you would go into Enter Data and choose Individual Observations. And I have this data set here. This was nursing program and marriage status based on your generation. So if you look at this column here, we're going to select this column as our generation. We'll put that in our first column here. I'm going to call that generation. And then we're going to look at this next column here. This is if you're married or not. So I'll put that into variable 2. Make sure you start at the top. And put married question mark. And then you're going to hit submit. And you can see this is the graph it'll give us. I'm going to put it back into the side-by-side by unclicking the stacked. And you can see that again, it's by percent. So the baby boomers had 33% weren't married, 67% were. Gen Z, of course, were younger, so they are going to have the least amount married. Gen X had 78% who were married, and the millennials were about 50-50. If you wanted to change your variables, so say we wanted the married to be the x-axis, you could do that by clicking on this by columns. And now you can see the married has switched to here, generation has switched over to the right. If you wanted to change the percent to counts, you could. So if you want to say show counts, now it's based on how many are in each. So we can see there were 2 baby boomers who weren't married. There were 102 Gen Z, about 15 Gen X, and 75 millennials. Then you can see the same thing for the ones who aren't married. So that is how you create those. If you wanted to change the title, you could add a title. So we could say married by generation, and that would put that up at the top. If you wanted to change the subtitle, you could. And this was a PA college study. And if the other options here, if you want to add a caption, if you want to choose the colors, you could do that as well. So that is how you make side-by-side or stacked bar charts in the DCMP data app.